Welcome back. This is the next video in our series on what happens in a typical criminal case. And in this video we're going to talk about court appearances. This is a topic that causes a lot of people a lot of stress, and it's mainly because you have an idea set in your head about what's involved and what's going to happen at a court appearance. Most of the time that idea that you have in your head is not reality, because most cases are fairly routine. So let's talk about the different kinds of court appearances that you have, and talk about those that you have to show up for and those that are just generally handled by your lawyer. Depending on the type of case, you may have to appear in court several times. In felony cases, it's not uncommon to have to appear multiple times, generally for pretrial hearings, status hearings. If you're on bond, the court generally requires you to be there. You have to make an appearance, and most of those appearances are pretty short. In misdemeanor cases, you're usually going to have to appear in court at least twice. One of those may be for what's called a disposition or a status hearing, and the other is the hearing when you actually enter your plea, if that's what you decide to do, or when you have to go to trial and appear for that. Most of the court appearances, such as pretrials and status hearings, are simply nothing more than you sitting in a courtroom, the court calling your name, you stand up, he knows that you're there, and you're done. Those appearances are usually designed to determine a couple of things. They're designed to determine whether the case is ready for trial, or whether it's going to be set for a plea, or if there is still an investigation and you just need more time. Usually, for most court appearances, there's going to be a lot of people there, so sometimes it helps to get there early so that you can have a seat and actually not have to stand or get squunched in among a lot of other people. You need to dress appropriately. The advice that we give is to dress like you're going to church. If you don't go to church, that may be a problem, but there are a few things that you can't do. Most courts won't allow you to wear shorts. You'll get kicked out if you do, and then you've got problems. Women, nothing unduly suggestive. Just dress nice. Dress like you want to make a decent appearance. One of the things that's been happening more recently, and at least it happens in McLennan County, is that many times, especially in misdemeanor cases, a court may require you to submit to some kind of drug testing. Usually this is when cases are set for some type of hearing and it gets continued or passed. The courts are going to ask that you submit to a UA, so be prepared for that. That means that you can't be using drugs, and if you are, you're going to have a problem with your bond. The court may decide to increase it, forfeit it, but something's going to happen. One of the conditions of bond generally is that you stay out of trouble and you not violate the law, and using drugs is a violation of the law. So if that's a problem, you need to address it now and not have to be caught by surprise. There are several different kinds of court hearings. The first one is usually what's called an arraignment. Most of the time you don't have to be there. If you have a lawyer, your lawyer is going to ask you to sign what's called a waiver of arraignment. That'll be sent in, and then your case will be placed on the actual court docket. There are pretrial hearings. Those pretrial hearings sometimes depend on whether it's a felony or misdemeanor. A pretrial hearing is really nothing more than a hearing to decide whether or not there are issues that need to be raised, and that there's issues that the court needs to decide before an actual trial. Most of the pretrial hearings are routine and nothing much happens. If you have a case where there's an issue that's going to have to be presented to the court, such as a motion to suppress, some kind of motion to compel discovery or the production of evidence, many times that will have its own special setting, and your lawyer will get that and let you know what's going to go on with that. In misdemeanor cases, there's what's called a disposition docket. That disposition docket usually occurs after a certain amount of time, and it's to determine what's going to happen with the case. At a disposition docket, at least in McLennan County, the case is either going to be set for a trial and you'll get a pretrial date, or it's going to be set for a plea and you'll get a plea date. One of the things that you need to be aware of, at least in McLennan County, is that in misdemeanor cases, the first setting you're going to be after the arraignment is going to be a plea date. Most people are a little bit taken aback by that because they may not be intending to plead. You may want to be taking your case to trial, or you may not even know. Getting a plea date doesn't mean you're going to have to take a plea. It's just the way the court carries the case on the docket. So the first setting will be a plea date, and then the case will move from there. Court dates are often reset, especially in misdemeanor cases. You need to check with us or your lawyer beforehand to see whether or not the case is going to be reset so you don't have to show up. Resets are fairly routine. In most cases, where all the lawyer does is go over and get the agreement of the district attorney, get the judge's signature if that's even required, and the case is reset and you get another date. Court dates are not something that you need to stress about and spend a lot of time worrying about. Generally, you don't have to say anything other than, "I'm here," if you even have to do that. Most judges will just acknowledge your presence when you stand up. If there is something that you're going to have to actually do something or participate in, we'll let you know, and your lawyer will let you know and prepare you for that. Usually those are things like motions to suppress or some kind of motion hearing. And usually you're not even going to have to do anything at those other than just sit and observe, because rarely is your testimony ever going to be required. As always, if you have any questions about anything about the court process, let us know, and we'll try to walk you through that and explain it. I hope this helps, gives you some general understanding about court dates, though, because be prepared. Most cases have several court dates, and so you need to be aware of what they are.